Can I take you back just to the period before you come into the full-blown band? So
Mhm.
apologies if I sort of make this succinct, but obviously Mark Brown had seen a band in Memphis, and you joined that band
Mhm.
before they go up to Minneapolis. So there's this period where you're the Glam Slam uh, house band, and I see saw on your bio that you've done some work with like film scoring and some work for Martin Lawrence's special. And I had a real hard time
Mhm.
sort of piecing together the timeline of is that work that you were doing before he sort of graduates you up into the full band? How did that come about?
I mean, so this is the crazy part. So yeah, to speak on the '80s part with the band Fingerprint. That's the Memphis band that Prince had seen. Um, uh, like Prince would do, like when I was in the band, we would go after our shows. We would find a club, either like a club that's a club or a club that has a band, or we were going to play, you know. And so whenever it was a band, if our people would find out where there's people playing, and we go check out people. And so just like that, um, they came and checked out the band Fingerprint. And with that band, man, we played a lot of time. We played a lot of Prince. We played a lot. It was a cover band, so of course we played. But what was great about that band is everything that they did. Greg and Angelo, the lead singer and the guitar player, made sure that everything was like just like the record. I mean, in terms of sounds, in terms of arrangements, and like because they always wanted to be like in that area of competing against like Prince and Michael and people like that. They weren't worried about being the best local band, beating up on the squares or any of that. And because you go to squares and people are like, who squares? And we go, exactly. And so we wanted to whoop Prince and wanted to whoop Michael Jackson and wanted to whoop Cam and the groups like that were out at the time. That's who the whoop. And so when they came and saw that band and were like, oh my God, you're like, Brown and came down and the management, Craig Rice, all these people came down afterwards. We're like, you guys, we see a lot of people playing our music, but you guys sound like us. And that was the beginning of that connection, just that they were there and heard the band sound like, wow, this is like we're sitting watching ourselves play. And that's what really made the link to Brown Mark and the Minneapolis thing. That was that part. Um, the Martin Lawrence thing, see, when I first started with Prince, I was working with Craig Rice, who was one of Prince's managers. He was a road manager for Purple Rain, and he was one of the directors for a lot of the films that Prince was making. I mean, like he was director on of Graffiti Bridge, and he directed a lot of videos and music videos and stuff. And so he had connections in Hollywood in different places where he was doing stuff. And I got the Martin gig through Craig because Craig was, he was dealing with HBO, Miramax, all these people. Um, and it was crazy because I was pulling my duty, my normal duty with Prince this early on. And I got that gig. And so after we do our late stuff, do all this crazy stuff, I would go and do like Prince would do. We would rehearse all day and then Prince go in the studio and record all night. I don't know how he does it. He would just be up 2 days at a time, 3 days at a time, all the time. He could do it all the time. I couldn't do it. I mean, I did maybe 3 days in a row, maybe two or three times in my whole career. And it's like after 3 days, bro, you're like toast. It's like you're just like, it's crazy, But Prince could do that on just like he could do it. So I had to go and like away from work, do I remember when Prince found out about that I did the soundtrack for this. It's a movie called "You So Crazy," and it was just a comedy movie, and all I had to do was like the intro and the end, and he comes out and does his thing, and it's me playing the "You So Crazy" and all of this stuff. And I just basically had to do that much. It wasn't like I had to do a whole film score at that time. It just source music at the beginning, the intro, and the end. So and then the trailer for the movie that was in theaters and that stuff. Um, And so I just squirreled away the time. And I remember Martin Lawrence was at the height of, he was just really big at the time. And I remember when Prince found out about it, he said, you worked on this Martin movie? And he said, when did you have time to do that? And I said, I said, I just did like you, man. I leave rehearsal and get my homework done. And then I work on this extra thing. He said, do you know how to get a hold of him? And he says, because I've been trying to reach him and I haven't been able to get. I say, oh, I got his people, and it was kind of cool because I was doing something Prince couldn't do at the time because he was like, well, I've been trying to reach out to him or whatever, So it was kind of cool, man, and the fact that my work didn't suffer because you would have noticed, like no wonder you were sucking that week because you was working on the Martin movie, and I couldn't have that, man. I
Yeah.
could not have that. I had to make sure that my work was done and everything was cool at work. And then I'd squirrel away the time to go do the Martin Lawrence thing or to go do some other stuff that I was working on at the time. That I always had to make sure home was knocked out, man. Because if it suffered and he found out, then it's gonna be trouble in the city.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'll
And that love of illustration for comics that you had, did you influence him? Because it was around the sort of the time that you were coming into camp that you start getting the Three Chains of Gold, and
Oh yeah,
do
no, that
you have
that,
anything?
that no, that's no, that's Prince, man. I don't have nothing. I don't think there's any. One thing I influenced Prince with, Prince loved comedy, man. I think one of the biggest parts of my longevity in that organization was the fact that I was funny and that I was this big
Yeah,
joker, this kind of clown, and that I would just kind of do this court jester thing. And I was just funny, man. I always wanted to be a comedian. I just was too afraid to like stand up somewhere by myself and maybe bomb telling some sorry jokes. But I was okay with doing it around us. I had enough of it to be funny, not enough to be like dangerous. But it was just the thing that he loved comedy and I keep him laughing. I used to like to hear him laugh. Prince had the funniest, like when you really get him, he laughs out loud, really funny. Like like the kid from the Simpsons. It was really funny, and so my thing was to get him every time I got a chance, like get him on something and make him laugh like that. And it's one of the things that I miss the most about him even now is that I did that hearing him laugh like that. And so
so those
that was,
interludes on,
you know,
sorry to
yeah.
interrupt, interludes on
No,
things
no,
like
no, yeah.
Emancipation and Montalvo, and is that stuff that you were doing in the studio and then you just happened to hit record, or is it scripted by you
Yeah,
guys?
no, no, yeah, man. That stuff was hilarious, man. As a matter of fact, on the Madhouse record, Madhouse 24, Prince had an actual recording of me, like just me talking on. I think on Nona Gay's on uh, uh, Marvin Gaye's tune. I could imitate Mark Brown. I could imitate like Michael Jackson, and I could imitate Prince and Craig Rice. Really, Prince used to ask me to imitate Mark Brown and Craig Rice. He's like, Morris, do Craig. Prince, I did not make you start this shit. And he would just start almost crying, man, because he said, oh my God, you got Craig down so good, man. And like, you got Mark Brown so good. He asked me to do Mark on this one track. Got to give it up. That's it. Got to give it up. And
Yeah,
he just hit record and said, Morris, do your thing. And I just made it up as I went. And I could hear him and Nona in the studio just dying laughing. It's on the track. Like they're just in there just dying. And he would let me just, even in other videos that we do, Prince has footage in the vault of me just doing the whole video by myself and just doing my just crazy Montalvo stuff and just all of this stuff. Because he just thought, man, Morris is crazy. He's just like doing this stuff and all of my church humor, because I went to church. I used to wear this church lady hat on stage and then just be the old church lady, like, hey man, everybody, welcome, welcome. And he just would be like dying, man. Like it was like he just loved it. And sometimes I do it like we had a run in Vegas, at the Rio 3121. And that was just part of the show. Like I put on my church hat and do my organ thing and it's hilarious, man. And it's like that was some of the fun that we had, and that was a lot of the the stuff that was the lead in it that I think that just like kept me around a lot, because sometimes Prince had a lot of pressure, man, and a lot of
Oh,
things that he had to deal with, man. And I was the cat that just kind of like just brought the levity sometime, man, and just where he's just like, man, we can laugh a little bit and just like let the valve open up a little bit, man. Prince was it was tough, man. I mean, and any little thing that I could do that was like fun and it just like had us cracking up and stuff, man. Even with the band, you know, especially when we got the girls and stuff in the band, like Shelby and Cassandra, like all the just like sometimes, man, stuff got man, you
Did Prince ever make any comparison to the other Morris? Because he had a very similar relationship with Morris Day, didn't he? With the humor and the levity. Did he ever draw a comparison to you?
but anyway, if you can hear me okay, it was just that Prince was
Yeah.
saying that he just needed a different persona for that music. He couldn't pull it off the way he was looking and the way he was kind of his vibe was, and that's why he needed Morris to kind of like create this different persona for that music. And so I think a lot of the comic relief that he got with Morris, he got with me, you know.
Yeah. And in terms of that comic relief, I've had a question for years about Matthew McConaughey coming to all the house parties in like 2008. Is
all
that a
right, all
comedy?
right, all right.
And he's at Arkansas. He's
Oh
Texas,
my
isn't he? But
God.
he's not far from Arkansas border, is he?
This is hilarious, man. This was one of the legendary 3121 parties at Prince's house. And Matthew decided he wanted to be bongo player for the night. He's a percussionist, right? And he is into it, man. I mean, Matthew is into it. He's committed. And basically, man, he bloodies his hands like playing. He's cut himself. He's bleeding. So after the thing's over, we're in the kitchen, me and Matthew and Prince. Excuse me. This is so funny because Matthew's like he's had the time of his life. He's like, man, that was cool, man. And he's telling Prince like this was great, and he says, put it there, and he says you're bleeding. He says your hand's bleeding. He says, yeah. He says we can be blood brothers, and Prince like, yeah, no, we will not be being blood brothers. Yeah, no, ain't gonna happen, McGee.
That's funny.
So Prince was like, yeah, no, we're gonna go ahead and not do that and shake hands bloody. So yeah, no. No, I was just gonna say we got to talking about, Austin, in the time, and I said, yeah, I said, Matthew, I used to live in Austin, man. I used to come down to this barbecue place. And he said, yeah, and where you worked, and he says, it was around the same time, and he says, yeah. He says, I said, man, that was crazy, man. That I went in there and got barbecue and you were working. He said, yeah, and the sisters were just like, they just would wear me out because like he's a good looking kid, Matthew McConaughey is a good looking kid. He said them big sisters down there used to sweat him like nobody. I'm just dying laughing, man. I can totally see him. He's got this smock on and he's got his muscles out. And these girls is like, ooh, child, so it was, man, we were just dying laughing about it because it just was so funny. Like, that's what he was doing while I was playing on
Yeah.
6th Street. He's down there slinging barbecue down at this place right there in Austin. And just some good memories, man. Just going back, just like where we both were and now where we both
So,
are.
as a foodie,
I have to
is
ask
it
Morris this
Franklin?
now. So, I'm going to ask him. So, Morris, we've heard a lot about the ribs at Rudolph's. Were they really as good as from what we've been hearing?
Let me tell you something, man. Rudolph's, Minnesota in general, man. When I first got to Minnesota, it was the weirdest place I think I ever had been at the time because I'd never been to a place where restaurants was like the hang, like nightclubs. Like it was like we're gonna go to the Rudolph's, and I'm like Rudolph's, the barbecue place, but it was like the club after the club, and everybody, Jimmy and Terry had their own booth that nobody could sit in, but them had like a rope around it. It's Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis's spot. That's their hang. It was the place to be. Really good food, packed out after the clubs closed up, man. It's like 2 o'clock on was Rudolph's. And everybody went to these restaurants like they were like nightclubs, man. And I'm like, what? I've never been to a place where the smokehouse is the hang. And like people take a limo over to the smokehouse or whatever, you know. And so, excuse me, that was crazy. But the food was great at Rudolph's, man. It was really good. I recall I used to love to go there, even when it wasn't like club night. You know, we go there and eat, and like I said, jam and loose. If you wanted to see some stars, the stars of Minnesota, that's where you would go because
Wow.
that was the hang, man. And just like we had a place called Williams, you know, in different places. Like there were these places, and it was just like that was the places to be, man. That was the hang. And
Hmm.
what happened was
Where'd you go now for barbecue?
there's a place. Oh my gosh, I took Philip Bailey there. A place called Market Barbecue, which is like near downtown and on Nicollet Avenue. Market Barbecue. That was the spot. I took Philip Bailey there. It was so good. Philip was so messed up that he was like, he called me. I was on tour with Prince, the Welcome to Canada tour, I think it was. Or no, it may have been before that, like an earlier tour that we were in Canada. And yeah, it was before that. He called me, man. I'm on the tour bus, like I'm going, man. Philip, hey Morris, what's that barbecue place you took me to in Minneapolis? I got Shaka Khan. I want to take her to that place. I said, Mark, he said, that's it. All right, bye. Click. And you know, he's gone. He's like, yeah, that's the place. That's the place. And you know, and he loved it so much he took Chaka Khan to it. And
Wow.
you know, so Market Barbecue was the other place, and I
Market
think it's
barbecue.
still there.
And
And it's out of sight, man.
what's the Austin one that you and McConaughey? Was that Franklin's?
I was, huh?
Is it Franklin's barbecue in Austin? Is
Yeah,
that like
yeah,
the other
I
one?
think it's Franklin's. Yeah,
Is that where he worked?
yeah, I think that's the one it was. Franklin, if I remember correctly,
Wow,
I think it was that. I believe that's the one it was.
that's crazy because they
But he
featured
used to
that
be in there
chef.
slinging it, man, doing his thing.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah, that's bananas, man. But that was a funny deal.
throw in a
So
page. I'll throw in a Patreon question here. I'll just if I can get this one in.
cool.
This is from our good friend on Patreon, Wanda Manning. She also wanted me to tell you personally that she loves you. But uh, when Prince shaved her head on stage, how did you really feel about it? And did you get a bonus for doing that?
Well, it all grew back. It came back because his hair. So, but check this out, man. It's so funny because I just looked at that on video maybe 2 days, maybe yesterday, 2 days ago. So here's the deal. I give you the story, the Cliff's Notes version. I told Prince we at this point we're shooting a lot of videos, we're doing a lot of stuff. Prince was shooting videos all the time, so I wanted to change my look up a little bit, and I went to him. I said, "Hey Prince, I'm thinking about shaving my hair bald, man." And I said, "So I wanted to ask you before I did it because I know we've been shooting videos. I know one Prince thing that he would do all the time is we shoot a video, and then months later, he said, "Oh, you know what? Weeks later, we're going to go back and shoot some pickup scenes for that." So what I didn't want to do is shave all my hair off and then mess up the continuity of any of the videos that we had already shot. And I just said, Prince, I'm thinking about doing this, man. So I don't want to cut my hair off. And then you say we got to go shoot something for one of these videos we just did because I won't have any hair, you know, and I'm going to put on a wig on. So he said, no, it's fine. He said, but then I was getting ready. But wait. He said, we had a guy named Paris Patton. That was our videographer guy that did the Sacrifice of Victor thing we did in London. Paris was like in-house video guy at the time. He said, take Paris with you and have him shoot them shaving your head. He said, maybe I could use that footage, just you getting your hair shaved off. And I said, okay, cool. You know, and I told Paris, I said, hey man, Prince wants you to go with me when I go to the barbershop. He wants you to like get your camera and go shoot me, get my head shaved off, you know, or whatever. And he says, cool, because Paris is like, yeah, he's like thinking of stuff too. He's like, great. So I hadn't gone yet. I went to the Glam Slam, and now here's the backstory to that. I remember Mark when I first started working for Prince. Mark Brown told me, he said, Morris, whatever you do, don't ever let Prince cut your hair. And I said, Mark, why the fuck? Like, why the hell would Prince cut my hair? Like, I was like, why would he cut my hair? He said, man, he gave me a haircut, butchered my hair, man. He said, and I was like, I saw the video, and I was like, oh yeah, he did. It's jacked up, man. He like gave Mark a jacked up haircut. Like Sexuality or one of those songs. It's like Mark's hair is just like it's like this, bro. It's tore up. So I was just thinking, like, Mark, why would I let Prince cut my hair? That's like crazy. So I get to the club. Prince sitting there with Ahmad Rashad. And I don't know if Shaq was there that night, but I know Ahmad was. So him and Ahmad are sitting together. I go over and he calls me over. He says, hey, Morris. He says, I got an idea. He says, why don't you let me cut your hair instead of you going over to the barbershop stage when we're playing? I said, wait a minute. I said, man, Brown Mark told me don't ever let you cut my hair. And he said, well, he says, you're going to shave it off. How can it go wrong? What can I do wrong? Well, I guess you got a point. I said, yeah, if you're going to, it's going to be bald anyway. You can't mess it up. He says, yeah. I said, well, do I get hazard pay? And he said, no. So, because I was like, so excuse me. I said, okay. I'm like, cool. You know, we'll do it. It was for this whole thing we were doing for NBA All-Star Week. And so he was like so excited. He said, oh, great, great. He turns to Ahmad and says, hey, this is my keyboard player. He's going to let me shave his head on stage at the thing we're doing at the party for the NBA All-Star party. Ahmad was like, oh, okay. Like, that's going to be weird. And it was crazy, man. It was like, I knew it was going to happen. I didn't know how exactly it was going to happen because we didn't really talk about the technical parts of it. He just like, we're going to be playing Days of Wild. Then, you know, I'm going to foof your hair up, like get the hairdresser. He told me, like, get the hairdresser to really foof it up real high as they can foof it up, you know, put some stuff in it and get it all. And then you're going to have on your cloak and all this stuff. And then I'm going to come over and pull the cloak off. And then I'm just going to like, I thought he was just going to kind of like shave, like take some time and shave. What I didn't know is that it was going to be like during the song, and then I got hair flying all over the keys, and I'm like, hair's in my mouth. It's everywhere, bro. I'm like, what the? And then he only takes a couple of swipes, and he puts the sound of the buzzer sound in the, you know, that was a sample that we just added later. You couldn't hear the thing running. But man, it was like so bananas. But he was so happy, like we did it. And because I was sitting there, the thing I was kind of concerned about is like, I'm getting hair all in the organ. It's going in the synthesizers. It's everywhere, bro. Like, you know, it's like hair. So I was kind of like, dude, like, don't get it all over my stuff. So there's one moment when I'm looking at myself and I'm like going, I look concerned right there because it's like I got this hair just going everywhere. But that was the only thing that was weird about it. And then on the next song, he sent the hairdresser up to finish me off while the song was playing. So she is shaving the rest of my hair so I don't look crazy. She's shaving the rest of my hair off while we're playing the next song. And then after we got off the stage, we kept playing and like taking these little short breaks. And man, he got off we were standing on my steps on my riser or on Michael Bland's drum riser. I don't remember which one, but we were standing on the steps. And Prince was so excited. He was like, man, Gene, nobody's ever seen anything like that. Who's going to a concert so somebody get a haircut on the stage? And he kissed me in the top of my bald head twice. Like I was like, oh my God. Like he was standing behind me and he just kissed me in the top of the head, man. And it was like so weird, but he was really happy about the whole thing and just thought it was a rock and roll moment. He just said that. He said, nobody, because he shows them, you know, there's some shots where you see the people kind of looking, they're like going, what the hell is happening right now? Like these are the days of Wild, you know? And it was really a big thing for him. He was just like, man, that was so cool, Mike Morris. He said, that was awesome. Like he just was really excited about it.
Can I segue that into the Super Bowl press conference? How much did he
Oh
say that he
God,
wasn't
yeah.
going to take any questions and he'd use that sense of humor to get that group?
Yeah, we knew that we knew that was going to happen. I mean, as far as he had talked to us about, like, we're going to go and do this press conference. They're going to think that we're just going to take a bunch of questions and then we was going to jam or something. He said, but be ready. Just listen to me. I'm gonna go and then I'm gonna do this, and they're gonna ask me some questions, and then I'm gonna I'll be ready to hit. So everybody knew to be on standby for whatever he says and just be at the ready to take off. But we did know that he wasn't gonna really take any questions and then just kind of go into this jam that we were just gonna do. We had to know that because otherwise he could have caught everybody off guard and not know everybody like and then it would have been this train wreck. So we definitely knew to be on high alert because it was coming. Like he wasn't going to answer no questions, man. So he was going to go in.
Did did it bother you that that crowd was just so dead? Like all these reporters who they didn't even stand up and dance or
Well,
clap.
that's the thing though. These are professionals, man. They're there to do a press conference. They're not up for Prince's shenanigans. Prince is just doing stuff, and he didn't really set it up for them to really like uh to for them to like, okay, I'm gonna start jamming. Y'all go ahead and dance. These are like press people. So it was funny to us, man, because it's just like they were just kind of shocked, like what is this? So it wasn't like we had a crowd of our folks scattered amongst the folks that are super heavy. So it's just like it's kind of like stage diving into a crowd of celebrities. It don't work out so good when you ask my take.
No.
It don't work so good when you
Yeah.
stage dive in celebrities. They just move out of the way because they don't want to get there. Oh my goodness, they just move out and you hit the ground. And so the
Yeah.
fans will buoy you and float you around, but not the celebrities. So reporters aren't very good,
Yeah.
good audience members.
Can I nail down a couple of things about that Super Bowl performance while we've got you? The
Sure.
first one is that I believe that there's a rehearsal that's recorded in case anything goes wrong on the night. They can play the rehearsal.
Yeah, they
Is
do
there a
that,
copy
but
somewhere
because
of
well, Prince has everything. I mean, what they do is on that Friday, because they knew the storm was coming. They knew it was coming, and so it's like we're going to have weather. We just don't know how bad it's going to be, and at what time it's going to hit for the Super Bowl. So they do that anyways. They have a contingency plan to make sure that we all were in full dress on Friday, like we're in full dress, like it's going to be. They film the whole thing, and they can superimpose us the way that the guy explained it to me. And I was MD on it, and I just told him, like I had to have these discussions about all of this equipment with all of this electricity and all this water. And I said, bro, I got to make sure Prince doesn't get electrocuted. I got to make sure our keyboards, the water, because we got a bunch of plugs and stuff. And they had, man, these cats, the NFL, man, I'm gonna tell you something. I ain't never seen anything like it. Like they had a contingency plan for the contingency plan. Everything was just like this dude said, "Don't worry about nothing. We this ain't our first rodeo. You're gonna be fine. Prince isn't gonna get electrocuted. Your stuff is gonna work. This is gonna work. Don't worry about it." And they handled it, man. It was incredible. Like they had made. I ain't even seen some of the stuff that they used before. Like the power got in some kind of thing so the water wouldn't get in it. And now the keyboards got jacked up because they got once we turned them off, they were done. There's all that rain had got in them. But we were using my company, Open Labs and Yamaha and all these folks. I had these Open Lab keyboards, and they sent them especially for us to use at the Super Bowl. So none of our equipment from Las Vegas, because we were doing the run at the Rio, and we didn't want to screw all our gear up, because we send out our own equipment. So they made sure we had all new stuff just for that. And I think after that show was over, when they unplugged it, everything died. But we signed it and did an auction for like Make a Wish, and so they were able to like auction these keyboards off. and then give the proceeds to Make-A-Wish. So it was great, man. It worked long enough because that's what happens when you get stuff wet. I mean, it'll work until you turn it off, and then it's like toast. And then so it was cool, man. They figured everything out. You know, Prince wasn't super happy about. I remember we went back to the truck and listened to the mix of the instruments and stuff like that. And he wasn't, Prince is always hard on any kind of award show, anything like that, man. He's hypercritical about the guitar, about the sound, about his microphone. Like all of these things are just like he nitpicks over everything like that, and he just wants to hear the mix. He's in the booth, like they're in the truck, and these guys are nervous, and they just want to. He wants to hear the mix of this and turn that up and this, that, and other. He's real crabby. Like it's like, bro, you just made history. I mean, there ain't never been no rain at a Super Bowl, and you did Purple Rain in the Rain, bro. It don't get no better than that, bro. Like, what you want out of life, A lot of us almost fell down. I almost slipped down. The twins almost slipped down. Shelby, but it was, man, it was one of the greatest moments I can remember. The only thing I thought that may have been better as far as the Prince thing was the Hall of Fame thing that he did with My Guitar Gently Weeps. I told him, I said, Prince, that was one of the dopest things I ever seen you do in my life, man. That was just, and he told me about that, but I wasn't there for that. But I said that was one of the greatest things I've seen you do, man. It's incredible,
Yeah. Do you think he was trying to prove a point in that middle of the 2000s where he'd sort of dropped the dancing and the splits? Do you think he tried to make a point about his guitar playing?
Whenever Prince does something with the, man, it was always a point of contention for Prince with like, and it was for me too, because I'd read these magazines that all of the greatest guitar players ever magazines, Rolling Stones top 100, or Prince would be like down 25 or 50 or something like that. I always thought this is bollocks. This is crazy. Like I've had Steve Vai give me a guitar for Prince and do this. Like, hey man, would you give this to Steve Vai? That's the devil in Crossroads. Okay, just so we clear. One of the greatest guitar players in the galaxy. All right. And he gave me a guitar, like present me with an Oscar, and like, I want you to have this 7-string for Prince, and he's my hero, and blah blah blah. And I'm like going, God damn, man, this is Steve Vai. You know what I'm saying? And people like Eric Clapton, all of these folks like this that always gets like number one, number two, Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix was dope. Make no mistake, he's a pioneer. He did what he did, but Jimmy, God rest his soul, had no kind of range like what Prince. Prince could go from any genre, any funk, jazz, rock, punk, whatever, and he could cover it, man. Plus he could sing, plus he could dance, plus he could play keyboards, plus he could play bass. It's like Prince got discredited for all of the stuff he could do. And I think people just looked over because he could do so much that it's just like, yeah. Prince play everything. He does it. He can play a little saxophone. He can do everything. And I think a lot of times, man, it was just irritating because I'm like, man, I could sick Prince of anybody. And so when you get up there with Tom Petty and all these cats, and it's like he gonna let them know. He told me, he said, you know what? Because I said, Prince, bro, that was banana sandwiches right there. And he said, you know what I did? He said, I for rehearsal, I just went half ass, so turned it over. When the show hit, I let him have it, And I said, yeah, that's what you do. That was the thing. He wanted to let him know, like in the rehearsal, he just like, I'm just gonna do, just get the sound check on. And he said, when the show comes, I'm pulling out all the tricks. I'm doing like the fall into the crowd, let my bodyguard catch me. And you can see, and he told me, he said, go back and watch it and look at Tom Petty's face. And I went, because Tom had that, why, you little bastard. It was just like, it was funny, man.
Morris, you're saying too about that, in my journey in this channel, I don't think people realize how far Prince has influenced people. I recently did an interview with a fellow by the name of Rick Hunold. He was a longtime guitar player in the thrash metal band Exodus. Him and Gary Holt, the other guitar player, who's also played for Slayer. Prince was their hero. Like Gary Holt has purple guitars he plays on stage. Like people don't.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting to to see his
I
reach and how
mean,
far he's
those.
influenced.
Yeah, I think those who know. You know what I'm saying? I think guitar players, because like I said, man, Steve Vai really made a point of just letting me know. You know, I've heard interviews with Eric Clapton and some of the other guitar players that talked about. And I even see there's this one guy on the internet that kind of dissects people's playing, and he said, I don't know how I missed all of these things on Prince, like it wasn't a part of my influence when I was coming up. My dad used to play this and that and the other, and this dude is amazing because I'm like, man, he is hitting that just like Prince was hitting. Like he just hear it and just go, this is what he was doing. He put a little fly here, and he's just like going through it, man. I'm like, oh my god! And he just said, I just slept on it because that wasn't my sphere of influence when I was listening to the stuff I was listening to. But this dude is crazy, and he kind of analyzes the video we do at the forum, play that funky music, and he was just like, this is, I mean, he's got the Telecaster, and he's kind of this is like him kind of doing a throwback to the Tele sound and the country and western kind of flavor he would kind of go to.
Yeah.
It just was like he had that kind of range.
Yeah.
Prince used to listen to Buck Owens and like them, like what's my man with that was on Hee Haw?
Roy Clark.
Not Buck Owens. Roy Clark, man. Roy Clark was a beast, doing what he was doing, man. I mean, them cats like that, man. And so, he understood all of those kind of techniques and all of those sounds, man. And he could do stuff because one thing Prince used to say a lot was, he said, Morris, he said, we can do them, but they can't do us, just do his little funny, tricky voice. He said, yeah, we can do them, but they can't do us. And that was a big deal for him. It's like that we can come and get you. I remember when we did the first MTV Music Awards in 1994 at Brandenburg Gate, and Aerosmith was of course that was like Armageddon. Aerosmith had this record was huge, and the word we went Prince turned it down. He said, we're not gonna do it. He called me and said, hey, get everything together. We are going to do the MTV Awards. He said, I heard Steve Tyler just said that, why are we headlining when they got a bigger record than us? And and Prince was like, so we gonna go ahead and do it now, and we just gonna whoop that ass, and it's like this, And I said, oh, cool, So we got over, and it was crazy, man, because he was just like, just on this thing and like always like all of these rockers, man. He said he said we're gonna play our rock tune, we're gonna do this, and we going hard. And that was his thing. I had Steve Tyler and Joe Perry come in the dressing room after, and it was brutal, man, because Steve was completely contrite and he had contrition for it. Like he said, I don't know how this terrible rumor got out, Prince. I had the sun and moon rises and sets with you, bro. And Joe Perry's like, yeah. They're just in there, man. Prince didn't say nothing, dude. He's got his shades on. He's got a lollipop. He's eating this thing. And all of the band, we're all sitting in the room. We're all sitting in the room, and nobody's saying nothing. Now I'm new, man. I'm a bleeding heart. Like, Steve was cool to me. He was cool to us, man. We out hanging out, man. And I got him on video hugging my neck, and we doing stuff, goofing around. And we all cool, man. But Prince wasn't that dude. He had actually sent our publicist and said, Prince, I want y'all hanging out with the Aerosmith guys. And I'm like, man, I'm glad, man. He cool, man. I don't let nobody just, tell me what friends I can have. I mean, Steve was cool to me. I'm gonna be cool to him, and it was cool. And Steven and came in, nobody's saying nothing, man. And I'm just sitting there dying. I'm like, oh my God. And he's like, yeah, and he's just talking and nobody's saying nothing. And I'm just like, okay. I'm like, oh my God, this is bad. I'm like, this is killing me. And I finally say, hey man, Steve, Joe, thank you, man. Thank y'all. I walk over and kind of like walk him out. Man, Prince was 38 hot. He's like, Morris. He's like, why did you do that? I'm like, Prince, you're killing him, man. I mean, he's in here, man. He's being contrite. He's like, Prince, man, you're the greatest. Him and Joe are like, yeah, and you ain't saying nothing, bro. You just like, and I'm like, I said, Prince, I couldn't deal with it. I was like, it was killing me, man. So I just had to end it. And he was like, ah.
That's so funny.
He wanted to jump
Did
the
he
light
change? Did he change over the
Huh?
years with that sort of slight awkwardness or the desire to
Nah,
be?
man, Prince was a. Let me tell you something, man. This is one of the things I do love about Prince. He was a rock star's rock star. I remember we were at this place in LA, man. We were at this little called a Green Door or something like that in Hollywood, and it's Iron Man. Robert Downey Jr. is there.
Robert Downey Jr.
This is after the first Iron Man, bro. He is the biggest thing in Hollywood right now. And I'm sitting there with Prince, we just sitting kind of chilling. And there's a bunch of celebrities hanging around. But I see Robert across the way. And he's talking to his friends and he's looking at Prince. Now I've seen this 1,000 times at this point. Like people that's like talking, and you can tell they're talking about us. And they're looking and he's like, and he looks at Prince and like, so he's telling his friends, I'm gonna go over there. And I'm like, uh-oh, here we go. And he's like, "No, this is Iron, this Tony Stark over there, man. He's chilling." And so I'm like, "Oh, he's gonna come over." And he's telling his friend, and they're egging him on, like, "Yeah, man, go and talk to him." Now at this point, Prince has told Trevor, he told our bodyguard dude, like go get the car and let me know when the car is here. Come get me. So when they come and tell him the car is ready, when Prince gets up. It is a beeline straight to the car. He don't stop and shake hands. He ain't trying to say, "Hey, what's up?" He just gets his cane and he's got his shades on and everything is a straight shot to the car. I'm out of here, kind of deal. When Tony Stark decides to get up, when Robert decides to get up and comes over, his timing was bad because when Trevor gave him the word, Prince gets up, takes off. Robert walks up, "Hey, Prince, I just want to," and Prince walks right by him with his hand sticking out, like, pew, just right on by. And then all of Robert's friends are over there laughing. They're dying, man. They're like, "Oh my God, he just went right past him and left him with his hand sticking out like this. Just like poof, smoke, and he's gone." And so now Robert Downey's like all hurt, man. It's like you can tell his little guts fell out. He was just like,
Uh,
really? I'm Iron Man, bro. And it's like, you just left me hanging. And I told, so Prince goes out. His assistant at the time was this girl Ruth. Ruth comes in and I said, "Hey, Ruth," I said, "Robert over there just tried to holler at Prince real quick and he just got shot down." And she says, "Oh, invite him to the house. We're having a party tonight. Invite him to the house, and it's cool. Prince had to just take off. That's what I know the drill." So she said, "Yeah, just invite him to the party, and it's cool." I said, "Okay." So I go over to him and I say, "Robert, I say, hey man, I'm sorry about that, man. Whenever Prince is on," he said, "Oh no, it's cool, man. It's like, no, it's fine." I said, "Well, we're having a party. If you want to come, no, it's fine. No." And his friends are just like, they're dying, bro. And he is hurt, man. And I was just like, God dang it. Prince just shot Iron Man down, man. And I'm just like, dude, but he's always been like that. He's
yeah,
always, if he was in a room with a room full of stars, he was the biggest star. Paul McCartney came to our
yeah.
table. Whitney came to our table. Everybody came to our table. Prince didn't go to nobody's table. You know what I'm saying? That's just who
Yeah.
he was, man. I always appreciated that about him because I'm like, man, this is a rock star, man. This dude is a rock star. And he just looked at
Mm.
himself like that. I always loved that
You
about
know
him.
what, Morris? I think we have to get Chappelle involved here and get you to film these because this is Charlie Murphy's stories part two, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, and I got a million of them, man, because I spent so much time. And it's funny, man. I'm actually thinking about writing a book.
Yeah.
About I start compiling a list. Now I have two books on it. One is called A Ticket, but the other one is I'm thinking I got a working name called Mr. Hayes Among the Stars. And what it is just these anecdote, these little stories like this of all the celebrities, man. It's the nuttiest thing because compiling it, um, when I started compiling it, uh, I just said, okay, I'm gonna just every time I think of the names, I'm going to just take a like a thing like this,
Okay.
and then I'm just going to
Oh,
write the
wow.
names down,
Wow.
And they're all like, like some heavy duty folks. I can't get it to be clear, but I can't get
That's
it to be
probably for
clear.
the best, isn't it?
Yeah.
You'd be inundated with
It's
people.
just it's just so many celebrities and so many actors, and the Will Smith, like everybody that is that we've come across, and I have all of these wonderful stories. I don't see, my thing is this, man. There are some celebrities that like not so great stories, but for those who, and I'm not about disseminating anything that's like, I'm not the guy for the raunchy and for the negative and anything like this. All of the stories I have are these wonderful stories, like with Paul McCartney, where I'm sitting there at the party and Paul decides to come over and talk to Prince. And as he's walking by, Paul, he's a friendly guy. He walks over and he's just kind of, I'm sitting right here and Briz and Prince and Cedric the Entertainer sitting right here, and he just kind of walks by and he kind of puts his hand on your shoulder as he's walking by. When he puts his hand on my shoulder, I'm like, "That's a Beatle, Beatle right there, dude. Got his hand on you." Like that, man, because it's freaking Paul McCartney, man. It's like, God dang, that's a Beatle that's got his hand on your shoulder. And he asked Prince, he said, Prince, he said, understand you've been doing my song, The Long and Winding Road with Elton. I'd love to get a copy. And Prince is like, yeah, Paul, like, yeah, we'll get that sent out to you, And I'm like sitting there thinking, like, man, I'm tripping. I'm like, man, this is Paul McCartney asking us about a song we had played 2 or 3 times with Elton John. Elton would come up and do The Long and Winding Road with us, and Paul wants a copy of that. And I'm like, man, this is like getting Jacques Cousteau to clean your fish tank, man. This is crazy. It's like, this is crazy right here, man. And I'm just like, I'm sitting there like, oh my God, bro. I'm sitting here with Prince, Paul McCartney asking about Elton John. I'm like, man, I'm through, man. Y'all put me in the dirt. I'm straight. It's like that, man. It's like, I got so many moments like that. It's just like, you have to just, sometimes you got to do that number right there because you're tripping. I did the same thing with James, with Ron Wood and Rod Stewart. Our bodyguard kind of rough Ron Woods up, and it's just like, I went and told Prince. He said, "What was that all about?" So I said, "Man, Aaron didn't know who Ron Woods was," and he kind of like shook him up a little bit. He says, "We'll go fix it, man." We go around the corner. Ron, his wife and daughter are there. Rod Stewart was there, man. So we just, me and Rod and Prince and a couple of people and his daughter and stuff. And I used to wear these cuffs like Prince. And Ron's daughter said, "What is that? It's beautiful. What is that?" And I just gave it to him and said, "Hey, yeah, this is, you check it out." And Ron was like, "Hey, it's beautiful. Look, it looks great on it." I said, "Well, you can have it. It's yours." She's like, "Oh, really? Thank you." And it was like this whole thing, man. And it's like, I'm sitting looking at it. Like I said, where's the black and white photographer to get this black and white shot of Rod and Ron Wood and all us in there around this round table, man? I'm like, this is rock and roll, man. Like, this is, man, I'm like, I love it, man, because it's the stuff I used to look at in rock and roll magazines, and I used to see it. Now here I am, and sitting up, a little kid from Arkansas. I'm sitting up in the middle of this stuff, man. I'm a blessed brother, and I'm a humble brother because I know that could have been anybody in that position, man. And I was blessed enough to be able to like roll around with Prince and do stuff like that. And a lot of people that roll with Prince was able to do. They know different stars. I just met the ones that I met over a 20-year span, and that's a lot of people, man. We did a lot of David Letterman and all of these different shows like that, where just a lot of people, a lot of celebrities came to our shows. And so, man, we just met a lot of people like that. I met Trump like that. I mean, and so, which I had no problem with Trump. I was like, man, he told me he wanted to shake my hand. And I said, "I thought you were a germaphobe. You didn't shake hands." He said, "Well, I'll shake your hand." And I shook his hand because the next day, Whoopi and hanging out at the Madison Square Garden, we are doing those shows. And I'm like, I mean, he's a playboy, like billionaire guy. I mean, I'm like, cool. He's at the show. It was like awesome. You know, I didn't have a problem until he got in politics. And, that's when it got to be an issue for me. But I'm just saying that happened on the norm all the time, all of these different people. And I was grateful to like meet all of the folks that I did. And these are nice stories. That's a nice story about Mr. Trump, that, because he was nice to me, I was nice to him. You know what I'm saying? And it just rock and roll. And that's what the beautiful thing about music is. It just, all of that stuff puts everything on a kind of level playing field. didn't, you know, I wasn't talking about politics. You know, everything's about music at that point.
Yeah.
And so I could address everybody as people, you know what I'm saying? And just like deal with them on a personal level, like aside
Yeah.
from all of that stuff, man. And that's what I loved about it, you know?